I get so many questions asked to me about clairsensitives because a lot of times people are just trying to understand it. So hopefully I'm going to answer a whole bunch of your questions. If not, make sure you make a comment below and I will most likely do another video because I love teaching people about like their own psychic abilities or psychic abilities of the people that they love around them. So let's go for this. Hi, my name is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium here in the Sugar Land area. That's just outside of Houston. So I love teaching people about their abilities, and clairsensitive is one that people really kind of misunderstand. I will tell you kind of the first one, and kind of maybe even the biggest one, is that people misunderstand why people don't like to be in big crowds. So if you're in a group of like 4 or 5 people, it may be very easy to kind of understand this. If you are in a group, a small group, you are feeling the feelings of 4 or 5 different people. Okay, you might be feeling kind of like their struggles, their issues. This could be issues with their boss, issue with their boyfriend, issue with their girlfriend, their spouse, their job, their boss, you know what I'm saying, like substance abuse, drug abuse, what they're going through. They're having issue with their mother-in-law, their father-in-law, they're getting all of that kind of stuff. And so, but it's much more reasonable because it's only shared between you and 4 or 5 other people. So that gets like a little bit easier to deal with. But when you're in a large crowd, that energy doesn't stop. That energy just keeps waving and waving at you, just like, oh my gosh, waves of energy. And you can be near one group of people and all of a sudden you feel like really happy and excited and that sort of thing. And then you realize like, wait, they're happy and excited too. So like, yay, I love that. And then you'll get in around another group and you're like, oh, I'm feeling very sad and depressed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're picking up energy from so many other people. That's overwhelming your system. And that can be the bad part of this. This can be the total, like, I feel depressed, I feel angry, I feel anxiety, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of times it really is coming from our clairsensitive issues. And I will tell you, once you learn how to clear off some of this energy, it really helps to kind of understand who you are underneath, like the basic you, who you are. Because then once you know who you are, then it's easier to kind of repel everybody else's energy. One of my favorite ones is kind of to be able to tell when someone is lying to you. This happens so many times that people will say something to me and I'll just be like, that just doesn't sound right. And I may not say anything on the outside, but I'll just kind of get that sense of like, something's not right. Now, I will tell you, there's kind of 2 ways people lie about things. So kind of they forget, very forgetful. So they will forget kind of their, oh, I forgot. Yeah, that wasn't Wednesday. That was Thursday, that sort of thing. So you can kind of feel that a little bit differently. But I will tell you, when people just like blatantly just bleh and give you a lie and you're just kind of like, it can also make them feel very anxious, which usually brings up anxious energy in you. And then usually that's where the clairsensitive, if you don't know the difference, will start to go into shutdown mode. When I feel anxious, I'm going to go into shutdown mode and kind of like step back from the whole world. That's when you know that it's the other person. Once you kind of get to understand that, it makes life so much easier, because a lot of times you're thinking like, I just got really anxious over this, asking this question, and I feel like I need to go in shutdown mode instead of going like, wait, this is all you and you've got to deal with this. That's one of those special ones. I will tell you the next one is people get really emotional over books and movies or even videos. I was talking to a client the other day and she's like, I love on TikTok, like all the little Reddit stories and kind of like part 1 and part 2 and kind of like getting into the story. And so she was like, I love all of that. And I was like, I can understand. Clairsensitives are very story-based people. They want to participate in your life with you. They want to kind of understand what you're going through. And so when people are telling them, this happened and my mom said this, or my mom did all that kind of the whole story, they're buying in on it. They're kind of feeling like they've gone through it with you, because as a clairsensitive, you kind of have. You kind of have really built up that energy with us. So it's kind of like, okay, here we go. The next one is we will get feelings and details about things when we go to different locations. Now, I will tell you, anytime that you go to a place and you've had a past life there, you're going to feel it deeply compared to everybody else, because everybody else in the group may go, I'm not feeling anything. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling super excited, because that's part of your past life. So it's kind of like you've come home in a way, kind of like you've come home to this energy, and you may have no idea like why you feel connected to this, but I guarantee you'll be like, this sounds really familiar, or this is kind of coming at a different way, or this is kind of like a weird way of thinking about this, or like the guide may be telling you something and you're kind of like going, no, that's not how they used it. No, 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 no. And then people be like, oh, well, the guide must be right and I must be wrong, even though you're feeling it deep down inside. That's usually a clairsensitive going like, no, that's not how they dealt with it. That's not how they used that item or that tool or anything else. And that is a really interesting way to think about it. I will tell you the next one is kind of like they never forget the emotional memories about things. And it's the emotions of it. The first time they got a bicycle for their birthday, the first time they got to do something, anything like that. Like the first time they met somebody, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I so remember the first time we met. And for them, it was very emotional. And that's how clairsensitive kind of like categorize their memories. They don't categorize them by like, I got a new bike. It's the feeling the new bike gave them. That's what they're classifying this as. So it's kind of like they're classifying under the feeling instead of just the item. So it's like you kind of know you're clairsensitive if you're doing that one. One of the interesting ones is, and I was talking to a client who went on a ghost tour last night, and she was so excited, but she was like, I kept feeling the emotions from the other people. And as the tour guide was talking about things, she was just like, no, that's not the color it was. That's not the way it happened. This is not how it happened. So she's kind of picking up the feelings of the ghost going like, that's not right. That's not the way it happened. And so she was just like, I'm picking up the connections of it and the energy of their emotions. Like, yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. My husband did this. My wife did this, whatever it is. And they're picking up the sensing of it. They're picking up those emotional senses of things. And that can be a very interesting way of dealing with this, is kind of that feeling with energy. They're feeling what the ghost went through or how things happen. It can also bring up some other emotions too that may be caught in the older space or the older home or whatever it's in, that can bring out more information because that energy stays stuck until it's psychically removed. The next one is you may have ideas about feeling right or wrong about things, and it's one of those, sometimes you're like, oh, it would be really great if this happened, but the other side of the coin is this is what should happen. Or they're reading it this way, but like, do they mean it this way or do they mean it this way? Like that twist keeps coming and you're like, okay, I don't get any of this. I will guarantee you this happens so many times. The clairsensitives have a lot of difficulty in kind of like putting their finger exactly on what is right and wrong. And I don't mean like they have a sense of like killing a person is good or bad or whatever else. I don't mean that. Like sometimes it's like, well, if you're not giving that person enough hours to work, that should be something wrong, but then they also have time to do something else. That's what I'm talking about. You're kind of like, okay, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, that's the interesting part of this. So they'll kind of get like that different side, like, was it actually a bad thing or was it a good thing? Because it's kind of in between. It's kind of like how you think about it, and they'll kind of see that thinking about side in there. One of the things I will tell you about clairsensitive, and this is kind of like warning sign big time, is a lot of times when clairsensitives are around someone else, all of a sudden their moods will change on a dime. Like all of a sudden they're happy, everything is going okay. They're not like super, super happy, but they're not super, super sad. They're kind of like just right in the middle, right along the line. And then all of a sudden they get really angry or upset or pissed off about something, or there's like, ah. The crazy part of this is not necessarily anything bad, but this is something to kind of be aware of. When your mood changes on a dime, it's because someone else's energy is either being thrown at you or you're picking it up. And so that's something that just can be so overwhelming. When you're around someone and all of a sudden something changes about that energy, you're just like, okay, wait, what happened? Where do we go from here? The question is, where did that energy come from and how was it sent to you? Was it sent because someone else is like throwing their negative energy at you and you're just like, wait a minute, I can't handle this? or is it something that you just picked up on? That's kind of the energy for me when I'm around someone and they're constantly throwing energy at me. That's when I like put up my protective barriers and I don't want to deal with that anymore. And I will make my way kind of out of the situation because I don't want to pick up their negative energy all the time. Because it kind of means I'm the trash can. I'm the stuff that they're throwing away, and I don't want that at all. But I will tell you, if it's just I'm around somebody and I'm picking up some negative energy, that might be something where I kind of go, you're throwing a lot of negative energy at me. Do you realize that? And a lot of times they're like, oh no, I'm just feeling overwhelmed with this. And I'm like, okay, so keep your energy and you deal with it and not passing it off to somebody else, because when you do, what you're doing is kind of throwing your contaminated or toxic energy at other people. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.